Pyron has spent his whole life stuck in this godforsaken underground bunker. Every day, he starts his life with brutal training. He crushes tons of weight while doing hundreds of push-ups, only to get beaten by his father, who shows no mercy for his exhaustion or any other reason. So the days kept going one after another. That's the only thing Pin wants, to escape the bunker and finally see the world outside. All he owns is an old family photo that reminds him his mother loves him. His father, the man who sealed him inside that dark bunker, certainly doesn't agree. He keeps saying over and over that she is dead. But our MC won't listen to him because he's just a terrible person. He locked Pyron inside and keeps saying every day that there's no escape because the end of the world is coming outside and everyone will die. All Pyron wants is to read about the world he longs to see with his own eyes, where he hopes to find his mother and new friends. But reality is unforgiving, and the sight of his father's boot snaps him instantly back to a painful present. Pan needs to grab the keys his dad always carries with him to get out of the bunker. So, during one of the training sessions, he finally takes his shot. As Pin's dad turns to leave and says that's enough for today, our boy sees his chance and snatches a mirror to strike back. He sprints forward, thinking it's the moment he's been waiting for to kill his dad and escape the bunker, only to jump and realize he's made a terrible mistake. He didn't see that his dad would never let his guard down. Pyron's father lunges at him, but Pyron jumps to strike and misses as his dad dodges. His dad gave him a hard kick. Blood pours from the hero's lips as his world fades into darkness. In the first story, our boy screams in pain and wakes up shivering inside his dark cell. His dad walks in, cheers him on for trying hard, and tells him about the rules. He had no weapons, so he fought with only his bare hands. Since he broke the rule, his dad says he'll have double training tomorrow. He throws the cell door shut and gives the order to get some sleep. When the lights die and silence fills the room, Pan leans in to listen closely and realizes two things. When his dad says it's bedtime, the sun is actually high in the sky and the world outside is normal, meaning his father is just lying to keep him trapped. With a promise to break free, he gazes at a family photo and makes up his mind to search for his mother, ignoring his father's claim that she is gone. Now he knows that story was a lie, so she has to be alive. He promises to himself that he will see her again. Somewhere else, his dad answers the phone and tells the caller not to call back unless it's a real emergency. After listening quietly for a moment, he hangs up and sends a cold wish that they survive. While Pan lies asleep and tied up with ropes in the cell, he is still yelling for someone to let him go. As his dad turns a blind eye, he fights back against the ropes, muttering to himself while they finally start to give way. Right before he can get free, his dad bursts in and yells for him to stop. The protagonist wants to talk about the double training, but his dad cuts him off to say that plans have changed, and now there's only confinement instead of training. Our boy wonders how to get ready for the end of the world while tied up, but his dad just tells him to stop worrying about it. Pan thinks of his mother and realizes that if he stays stuck, he'll never find her again. He digs deep until he finally breaks free from the ropes. His father yells at him to stop, but he keeps pulling hard at the ropes tying him up, even while his father's laughter bounces around the room. Suddenly, his dad hits him hard and sends him flying. The man tells him not to move, but our boy shakes his head and won't stop, no matter how much it hurts. Once he breaks free, the hero is set on watching his dad finally lose. He spots a tiny spark of something else hiding underneath his dad's anger. Maybe sadness, and Pien wonders why his father looks at him that way. His father punches him, and the world goes dark. Pan's dad leans against the chalkboard while the protagonist sits nearby, listening closely as the man stresses that rule number 1 for survival is absolutely essential. He keeps insisting the bunker is the only safe bet since it's been sealed for 126 years, stocked with enough food to last, and leaving it would mean death, so he's convinced the end of the world could hit any time, and this is the only place left to survive. When alone, our boy whispers the word never to himself, haunted by the scary memory of waking up to find his dad missing after being knocked out, something that had never happened before. Just yesterday, his dad started acting weirder than ever, throwing their normal routine right out the window. Now Pyron knows something huge is coming, and he's sure of it, so when the metal doors start to rattle and bang, he knows it's finally here. Standing on the edge, the protagonist turns to look around, whispering in confusion as the echoes from the bunker seem to pull him closer. Seeing an open door, he dashes through it, knowing this is the break he's been waiting for. Pyron dashes down the quiet hallways, no longer afraid that his dad will catch him. He zooms past the clattering gates without slowing down and quickly slides to a halt right at the ladder. Excitement surges as our boy scrambles up the rungs, barely daring to open his eyes until he finally pushes the hatch open and is greeted by the blinding sun, forcing him to squeeze his eyelids shut before slowly stepping outside to see the light for the first time. As he steps closer, he whispers in disbelief that he has truly made it out. A man yells out, asking why he is standing in the road. Pan stares in shock and blurts out that it is truly a real person. Panic starts spreading because getting caught now is not an option. If his dad finds out he's gone, he will come looking for him. Our barefoot boy runs with all his might, desperate to flee the bunker and savor the freedom he had only ever dreamed of. The terrifying thought of being stuck in the bunker makes him rush even harder. He couldn't believe the doors opened so easily and wasn't sure if it was a glitch, but he knew it wasn't because his father was too careful to make such a mistake. He wonders if his dad let him go on purpose, but he can't believe that's true. His father would never break his own rule and never leave the bunker. The sound of laughter nearby draws his attention. He looks around and sees strangers chatting, kids playing, and everyone acting like nothing is wrong. He suddenly realizes the outside world is calm and safe, completely opposite to what his father warned him about. Now his dad's words feel like a lie, because out here, people just go about their daily lives. Looking up at the sky, the protagonist tells himself the end of the world isn't happening. Suddenly, the laughter fades into fear as his father's warning hits. The end is coming without any warning. Suddenly, everyone starts looking up, not realizing the trouble that's about to crash down on them. A giant, burning black sphere suddenly covers the sun and fills the sky, looking like a living monster with swirling dark clouds and scary tentacles, causing the crowd to panic and point in fear while Pan stares in shock. Our boy is the only one who can truly see the monsters, and when he does, a flash of golden light exposes a terrible, tooth-filled mouth. The hero freezes in place while scary beasts crawl out from the shadows. Huge limbs and furious eyes were coming down toward Earth. The swirling swarm tears through the sky and now hangs over the city, but all he hears is his father's warning to stay in the bunker, a rule meant to keep them safe unless the monsters stumble upon it by accident. As vines burst through the streets, and his dad's warning rings in his ears, Pan recalls the chalkboard where Rule 1 has been crossed out. The system flashes with a remote command, and suddenly every lock swings wide. Monsters let out a deafening roar, swarming the streets while the people stand frozen with pure terror. The swarm piles so high it blocks out the sun, while on the ground, the crowd runs in panic as chaos takes over. Just when it was quiet, vines shot out, yanking a man screaming into the air until his glasses smashed and his body was ripped apart. His head tumbles across the street while people around him go into a panic, pushing and screaming. In the middle of the chaos, one person frantically asks what the noise is while another screams for everyone to run, and the crowd tramples each other in their desperate attempt to escape. Right in the middle of the chaos, a man with headphones keeps walking straight ahead, looking like he can't hear anything. The boy in his headphones freezes, just in time to see a giant monster crash down on the street, shaking everything around it as a huge, crackling beast rises up and stomps forward, sending shockwaves out with every step. As another winged beast crashes down with a deafening boom, spinning monsters rush in to crush the fallen, while screams of terror fill the air. Desperate pleas for police ring out only to be drowned by shouts that the phones are dead, leaving the protagonist trapped in the chaos with his father's dark warning echoing in his ears. When the end of the world comes, the earth will drown in blood, while screams rise up from the ashes. Our boy stands frozen in shock as bodies lie scattered across the broken square. A huge, dark whirlpool towers over the city. A clock flashes on D1 while screams fill the air as the destruction rages on, turning D1 into D0 and proving the apocalypse isn't coming. It's already here. As the ground cracks open and buildings crumble while monsters overrun the streets, the last words confirm the world has already ended. A twisting tower of monsters looms over the city as Pan lands on the street, finally seeing that his dad was right about the end of the world coming true. He lifts his head, realizes the warning must mean his mom is gone, and grits his teeth to accept the truth. Boom, boom, and everyone runs away in fear. A horde of monsters bursts down the street, screaming and forcing everyone to run for their lives. Just as the creatures get close, a hand grabs Pan's arm and yanks him back. As monsters rip through the crowd, his dad drags him through the chaos while a man yells at everyone not to give up as survivors run toward safety. While one man is dragged down and eaten, our boy keeps running and turning a corner with a hungry crowd right behind him. His father shouts that more monsters are coming, grabs his arm, and they both jump over the wall. The street is jam-packed with folks running for their lives. Helpful cries fill the air as long, slimy vines drag people toward the monsters' hungry jaws. They rush to gain speed, but the writhing tentacles tighten their grip and swallow more. As the horde pushes forward, they spill onto a bridge where terrified people slip and scream while terrifying monsters crash right behind them. As Pan screams that they're about to be caught, the beasts rip through everything, grab a man, and drag him away. His father shouts there is no time, so they must run because the bridge is their only way out. As monsters pour onto the bridge, the crowd surges forward in fear. The protagonist screams a warning, but his dad stays silent. A monster lunges and wraps its limbs around the boy's leg. He fights hard as the vines squeeze tight, but his dad smashes them off with a rock. The beast screams and runs away, but Pyron is hurt and holding his leg as the horde gets closer. He shoves himself forward through the gap between abandoned cars, stumbling but refusing to stop, while the monsters get closer and closer. He tumbles and slides along the ground, his words a low, angry growl. He tells his dad to run away now, since he knows he can't take another step. Suddenly, memories rush back of being trapped and screaming that no one was listening. He bows his head in defeat, but his father steps closer, demanding that he rise. Our boy argues that he can't keep running because he's sure there's no way out. His dad insists that Pan can make it. Shaking his head, the main character pauses, but his dad grabs his hand and yanks him back to his feet. He shouts, "Run!" Pan protests and demands to know the plan, but his dad just presses something into his hand and urges him to go. There isn't a second to spare, so he must jump off the bridge now. The boy nods and limps away through the cars, but when he looks back, he sees the bridge snapping its cables and crashing into the gap below, quickly covered in dust and rubble. He halts at the brink, whispering and shouting for his dad. The hero just stood there, eyes wide on the ruined city, lost for words after everything that happened. Peering at his pendant, a memory surfaces of his dad's words. "You can do this. I know you can." Now Pan starts to wonder if everything has been part of the plan all along. He whispers to himself why this is happening, wondering if it's too late, and finally admits he's actually made it this far. Not sure what to do, our boy remembers dreaming of sunlight and freedom while he's stuck in the dark bunker. But now, as a bright light sparks in his palm, he feels emptier than ever before. A picture of his mom's face jumps into his head as he whispers, "Why again?" begging his dad for answers on why things had to get so bad. He shouts his question into the chaos, then suddenly remembers he was handed a piece of paper. Pyron grips it tight and stares at the shaking ground as a huge monster crashes down right next to him. He sprints away while the monster bellows, yet it's right on his heels. His leg strikes a piece of debris and nearly sends him crashing, but the protagonist grabs a broken pole and leaps. The creature crashes down, knocking both of them flat on their backs. Our boy can barely stand, clutching his hurt leg as he stares down the monster, whispering that this is the end and believing there is nothing left for him. A single drop of water hit his skin. He feels the crumpled note tight in his hand. "Your mom is still alive," he shouts, begging to know why he only finds out now. As the monster's heavy steps crack the ground, Pien forces himself to stand, shouting that he will find his mother before facing the beast, only to hear his dad's voice warn him that luck won't save them and that they need real strength and a sharp mind to survive this world. The protagonist wonders how he can survive as the ground shakes and the beast charges, so he yells, but his father's voice cuts in to ask if he has forgotten everything he was taught. Just as the beast lunges, our boy slips away to stand right next to it. Seeing a weapon ahead, he grabs it, pulls himself up, and turns to glare at the charging beast before sliding under its claws to snatch the weapon and dash forward, swinging with all his might as he tells himself he will make it through. The city is a ruin, and monsters wander everywhere without a care. While one person climbs down the tall tower, another crawls through the piles of broken stones. The streets and buildings are shattered and hold a strange, dead silence. As darkness wraps around the ruins, the survivors huddle together for safety among the broken pieces. One man wipes his face and complains that it's been 4 days. One grumbles about the missing cops and guesses where they've gone, while a girl notes that their hideout is lucky, but the food is gone, leaving everyone unsure of where to go next. Just as she's about to keep going, a man steps in and tells her to stop because she's making everyone feel uneasy. Confused, the girl insists she isn't shouting. She looks back at the body and clarifies that isn't what she meant. While he mutters that he's going crazy, a young girl steps up to ask if he's checked every single place. He admits he has some, but warns that it's all they've got, and they'll need more if they want to survive. She remembers a spot they've never tried and resolves to see it for herself. As she leaves, our boy thanks her and admits she's the only one who helps him. She brushes off the praise and vanishes into the rubble. She spots 2 men and asks if they have seen any food, but instead they start eating from a secret stash. She tells them they meant to share, yet one person just shrugs and says, "Never agreed to that." She points out they ate from the shared supply yesterday, but they act as if they know nothing. When she threatens to tell on them, they step in front of her and warn her not to try. She stands her ground as the bald man laughs and backs away, only for a sudden scream to freeze them both. One wonders if it was a scream, while the other tries to stay calm, claiming the sound was distant and that they'll be fine, until he spots something ahead, causing the girl to crouch as the bald man laughs at her for pretending to be tough. After a pause, she turns around and starts walking back through the ruins. The same man from before spots her and, feeling relieved, asks if she searched the area. She nods when he asks if she found anything, then hides a piece of bread under her jacket and tells him there was nothing. He trusts her, but then a loud crash blasts dust into the air as a one-eyed monster suddenly appears. The man stops dead in his tracks, surrounded by trash, while the monster gets closer. In a panic, he lunges for help, but the girl rushes past him, apologizing while his screams are swallowed by the creature's roar. As the monster crashes onto the street and panic takes hold, one voice screams never to look back while another curses at the rising tide of creatures, with a red-haired man muttering that they can escape once someone else gets caught. The little girl dashes right at the monster, weaving through its blows without even a second's pause. She spins and flips off its arms, landing in a swirl of dust that leaves two nearby men completely shocked. She flips back to her feet without missing a beat and keeps running, leaving the bald man watching in awe as he realizes she's faster than anyone. Chaos erupts everywhere as people scream and run away. She moves through the broken streets, climbs up to safer ground, and stops to catch her breath. As she looks back, she spots Pon sitting there with his eyes shut. She gently bumps him to find he's still alive, but out cold, right before a hissing thing creeps up on them. She presses against the wall in fear as the growling monster gets closer, but the little girl grabs the protagonist to pull him to his feet, leaving them both alone to face the looming danger. As the piles of broken stones finally quiet down, a little girl takes a deep breath to calm her racing heart. She turns around to see Pin resting on her lap. He begins to tremble, driven by a desperate need to know who she is and what she's doing. As she struggles to speak, he silently promises to never let his guard down again. She tries to say she just covered him to hide him from the monsters, but her voice is drowned out by his father's scary warnings about people who only use others and then throw them away. Our boy tells himself not to trust anyone, even as his growling stomach screams for food after he left the bunker. Shaking with weakness and barely able to stand, he weakly asks if there is any food left. She says she has none, yet a piece of bread falls from her pocket and gets his attention. She tries to brush it off, but Pyron calls her a liar and decides to take the risk. Finally, she rips the bread in two and hands him a piece. He pauses, wondering why she's sharing, and she replies that he now owes her 5 times as much food. He agrees, but after they finish eating, she jumps up and chases him, shouting that monsters are still nearby. He halts when he sees she knows the place so well, and after she says she's lived there all her life, he studies her face, trying to decide if he can trust her, while she insists she knows every corner. He asks her if she can show him the way to the subway. She sighs, agrees to show him the way, and regrets giving up her bread, then asks why he is so desperate to find the subway. Pan tells us that it's safe because there's plenty of food, easy ways to get away if needed, and best of all, being underground makes it much harder for monsters to find us. She halts and declares they have reached the spot, but he remains skeptical until she insists this is the entrance. An older man steps forward, nods to show they are in the right spot, and gestures for them to follow. He guides them down secret steps into the subway, where the tunnels are packed with people looking for safety. The old man remembers how the monster attacked before, sending everyone to safety, and how our hero stumbled upon this spot just by luck. He says folks only come up from below for medicine, and these two are the first new arrivals in a long time. Pon scans the crowd, fearing the larger group might bring trouble, but his gut tells him these people are trustworthy, so he finally lets his guard down. The old man named Baum Huang, a doctor, tells them he found them while looking for medicine, then asks for their names before the girl steps up to say her name is Haru and that she goes to Gazang Middle School. BOM spots her uniform and says his hospital was just across the street, but Haru looks confused and insists there was never a hospital there. BOM steps forward, sees our boy is in rough shape, and asks for his name. The hero pauses, longing for his journal, only to admit he never had one. BOM nods and tells him to share it when he's ready, but then a red-haired kid rushes in to say someone is getting worse. So BOM hurries over only to find that even after his best efforts to treat the wound, it has gotten so bad they now need emergency surgery. While BOM readies his tools, Pyron remembers tales of greedy doctors and wonders if BOM is truly different. Yet as others doubt if money still counts, BOM stays calm and insists that saving lives is his job, and he never fails a patient. He starts the operation and tells everyone everything will be okay. As the procedure finishes and the patient hugs BOM with thanks, our boy just watches, not sure if he can trust BAM as the doctor tells him to rest. A badge slips out, showing that Baum Huang is actually a vet. He gets his tools ready and warns that what comes next will hurt a lot. As the patient panics and begs to be untied, BOM firmly refuses, explaining that any movement could be deadly. The patient argues against BAM's experience with animals, but BAM stands his ground and reminds everyone that humans are animals too, so his methods still work. The patient keeps fighting, so BOM suggests putting him under, but the red-haired girl says they can't find the medicine right now. BOM grabs a brick, says it's all we have, knocks the patient out, and leaves Haru and the protagonist standing there in silence. Pin clutches a picture of his father and a note that gives him hope his mother might still be alive. Even though he thinks he'll never find her, that picture suddenly grabs his eye. The strange flowers behind him look like nothing he has ever seen before. After studying the flowers, the protagonist suspects they only grow in specific places, meaning the photo might hold the secret to his mother's whereabouts. So he decides he needs a plant expert, even as a group gathers in a bunker where Captain announces that something new is about to begin. He warns that any resistance will be crushed if necessary, and when a man demands answers, the captain simply stares him down with a glare. He says he can read everyone's secrets and fears just by staring into their eyes. Seeing fear in the angry man's eyes, the captain points him out. The man begs for room to move, yet the captain punches him, declaring that fear always finds him right around the corner. The captain nods with satisfaction at what he's seeing and shouts for even more. He commanded the man to reveal his true self, but the man pleaded with him to stop. A subordinate jumps in to say that an old man, a girl, a boy, and an injured man are all gone. The captain chooses to handle it alone, tying the angry man up and leaving him outside while ignoring his cries. Then our tired boy dreams of being dragged away before waking up to find strangers surrounding him and asking who he is. A blonde-haired man gave him 2 minutes to prove himself, laughing and claiming that running wouldn't save him. As Pon stands there, the captain decides that his earlier judgment about the protagonist's curiosity was wrong. The blonde man asks how to fight them off, only for the question to bounce right back at him. The captain smiles and pushes us to see what's hiding behind our boy's eyes. The blonde man warns him that he should have run, but Pan replies that he only needs 2 seconds to bring him down. The blonde man pulls out his blade just as the protagonist searches for his missing photo. The man taunts our boy by showing him the picture and claiming it's the only thing he found valuable, but our boy threatens to kill him if even a scratch touches the photo. The captain grabs the paper, threatens to shred it, and beats Pyron to learn why such a simple scrap of paper means so much. The captain shouts that the hero won't be kicked out after all. He noticed a new kind of darkness in his eyes. He tells the man to keep him safe and never let the picture out of his sight. The man confesses that Pyron makes him feel uneasy, yet clutching the photo leaves our boy feeling completely helpless. Haru reaches out to see if you're all right, but you lash out and shove him away. She asks why he's taking it out on her, saying she only wanted to help. He stubbornly says he's fine and tells her to stay away. She yells out his name, Haru, begging him to remember it, but he shrugs her off, leaving BOM to ask Haru what's going on. She declares that Pan cannot exist, and Baum nods, agreeing that something is terribly wrong. Little boy still hears his dad's scary rule, never accept help from anyone. Watching the man with the photo, he thinks about grabbing it back but decides to wait, knowing it's the last thing left from the bunker and can't risk losing it. The captain pulls everyone together and says they have only 2 choices, walk with him or get kicked out, just like the tied-up man who refused to obey. He tells us the prisoner was causing trouble and is now being kicked out, reminding everyone that his word is the law. For most, joining him is the only way to stay alive, but BOM says he's too old to go along with it. If Haru follows the captain, she'll lose her patience, so she decides to stand alone while pointing out that others like Pyron, Bam, and a few friends are refusing too, all of them openly defying the captain's pressure. A red-haired girl jolts awake, grumpy and shouting because no one woke her up. She mutters angrily, claiming she never wanted to be here to begin with. As panic takes over, she screams that everyone is doomed and about to be tortured, but a calmer person just shrugs it off, while the red-haired girl looks on uncertainly, wondering if those scary words could actually come true. The quiet one just grins and jokes that they might end up starving or getting thrown to monsters. Her face turns pale as she worries he has lost his mind, but the tension breaks when loud noises outside startle a girl rushing out, only to be scolded by a man who quickly apologizes to BOM for letting her slip away. Bam kneels and begs the girl to listen to her dad, but she mutters to herself and storms away, shouting that he isn't her father. She refuses to believe her real dad isn't still looking for her with her mom, but the man gently reminds her he's just a stranger she met while running away. He tells how he took in the girl after she lost her parents, but when another boy showed up, the captain stepped in and made it clear that no one leaves the room or else they face punishment, no matter who they are. Someone else warns him that being a kid won't save him from trouble, while the boy glances around frantically, trying to find the man who took the photo. Over in another corner, it's time to eat as the guards hand out food and remind everyone that each person gets only one meal. The red-haired girl objects, saying her portion is way too small compared to everyone else's. The guard insists it's the captain's call and that they don't need much food since they're stuck inside anyway. The girl's hands tremble with rage, and someone nearby freezes, feeling that trouble is coming. Simeon says he hasn't seen Chicken Comb, and soon a hush falls over everyone as secrets start to move through the crowd. Everyone knows Chicken Comb is the captain's shadow who breaks rules, wanders wherever he wants, scares people with his strength, and smiles while beating them up. As Chicken Comb strolls right by, the little girl trips and dumps her food all over his vest. He flashes a dark grin, warns her that annoying him will bring regret, and invites her to follow. People whisper that he could hurt a child without even thinking twice. She shakes in fear as he growls that running is too risky and commands her to come along. Yet it's obvious he's leading her straight to the group. Someone calls out in surprise. Chicken Comb turns to the guard and asks him to give the girl another meal. The guard pauses to remind him about the one-meal rule, but Chicken Comb towers over him and demands the guard's own food. He passes it over to her. The guard is baffled, thinking Chicken Comb is plotting some cruel trick like forcing her to eat as punishment. All at once, the man watching over the girl crashes through the door, snatches her hand, and tells everyone to back off. He won't take no for an answer and needs to know exactly what is going on. Chicken Comb looks confused and asks what he did wrong, but the man just calls them all thugs and walks away with the girl. Chicken Comb stops, then smiles as they walk off. The two girls spot more guards everywhere, and the boy mutters to himself, wondering if he should face the blonde man alone. The blonde girl walks away without saying a word. Later, the girls just sit there in quiet company. One shift brings the dark figure to see the boy all by himself. As she steps closer, he suddenly clamps a hand on her wrist, his eyes flashing with anger as he shouts that she's trying to trap him. She argues that she just wanted to have a conversation. He repeats her words with a suspicious look, wondering if she just hates talking. She wants to know why he even cares. He cuts right to the chase and tells her to stop beating around the bush. She wonders if he's just shy as she asks why he always sits alone. He declares that everyone is his enemy, so he decides there is no use in getting close to anyone. She insists she meant no harm, but he doesn't believe her, sighing and telling him to think for himself while begging him to make up with Haru. He insists he and Haru never fought and treats her exactly like everyone else, seeing her as just a human. The girl tells us that Haru cries herself to sleep each night, weighed down by a heavy secret. She hopes a friend her age can help, but the boy calls the idea pathetic and shuts it down. He insists that sadness is a sign of weakness and that staying alive is the only thing that matters, but she pauses to ask if he has ever lost someone he loved. He shakes his head and says it will never happen because he has nothing to lose and no reason to be sad. She thinks he sounds lonely, but he insists he's okay. She says that should he ever pass away, she will be heartbroken for him. He rolls his eyes, calls the idea ridiculous, and promises he won't be sad if she dies. She giggles, coughs, says sorry for chatting too much, and says good night before heading off, only for the red-haired girl nearby to wake up groaning that she can never sleep. Parent steps into the underground shelter where a blonde thief snatches his only clue to finding his mom, and then gunshots erupt as the thief roughs him up, claiming it's punishment for trying to get away. But Pyron just stares right back, not scared at all, and tells him to drop the picture and fight instead. The blonde one begins to shake as he sees our hero clutching the picture like it's gold, completely forgetting his own safety while yelling that Pyron deserves another beating. Our boy thinks about his dad's old saying that everyone is born bad, but he also holds onto the tiny acts of kindness he has seen. Suddenly, the girl from earlier dashes and looking shocked, and Baum inspects him, insisting he needs to clean his wounds, but Pan refuses the treatment and instead grabs the food she saved for him. Just as he's about to say thank you, she suddenly starts coughing so hard that he can't help but notice. Bum cries out that she needs her medicine, but there isn't a single drop left. He warns that things will only get worse without it, but she stubbornly refuses to let anyone risk themselves for her, even as her coughs tear through her. Our hero grows scared and wonders what will happen if there is no medicine left. He doesn't get a chance to speak before thugs arrive, while the man holding the photo complains about the captain wanting it shown off and wishes he could just kill Pyron to end it. Then Bum is told he must help some strangers right away. He says no because he has someone important to look after, and the thug starts wondering which side he's really on. Though the girl is too weak to climb the stairs alone, she insists on going up for medicine, but Bon refuses to let her try, fearing she'll fail. So he offers to go with her, only for the thug to suddenly stab her and mock how easily he could have helped. Everyone froze in shock as she collapsed. Blood was spreading all over the floor. Pyron feels his own life slipping away as a strange, glowing energy bursts from his wound and knocks him back, leaving him to watch the pulse of life fade while realizing how incredibly fragile people really are. Her hands tremble as she reaches for him, whispering a reminder of the time he told her he wouldn't care if she died. Then her hand freezes perfectly still, while BOM screams at the thug, calling him a monster for killing so easily. The thug casually wipes his knife clean. The killer just shrugs, saying he saved Bayon from going above ground and that they can't lose a doctor over one dead woman, while Pyron stands frozen as the thug mocks him and asks if he's scared now. Our boy stays quiet and lifts his eyes. As the thug waves his bloodied knife, he suddenly realizes the photo is gone. Pan sees the object on the ground, likely dropped when he drew his blade, so he drops to his knees as the kid looks at the picture while the thug keeps poking him, desperate to know what it means. Pan steps forward as the thug grins and asks if he's ready to fight. Suddenly, our hero leaps forward and strikes the soldier right in the face, leaving him completely shocked. The tough guy threatens Pyron, but before he can react, a sudden punch knocks him down and sends his knife flying across the room. Our boy dashes forward quickly and knocks him to the ground. The thug tries to rise, but Pyron slams him down again, and while the man grabs his shirt, the blade flies through the air until our hero catches it with perfect timing, spins, and hurls it across the room. The knife jams deep into the thug's neck, freezing everyone in place as he shakes and hisses in agony while PN watches silently. He recalls how he easily ambushed his opponent, leaving the man with no chance to reply, and curses himself for not just taking the photo right away, muttering that things would have gone differently had he acted sooner. His heart pounds fast as dark energy swirls around him. He raises the blade once more, getting ready to strike. Just as Bam kills the intruder and approaches with worry etched on his face, a voice warns that there is no turning back. The parent pauses, muttering the warning to himself, while angrily wondering why anyone would care about the thug. Bam admits he's genuinely worried about him. His fist shakes while the older man questions if he really needs to kill. Pin looks down in silence, admitting there's really no point left. He remembers his father's lesson that breaking someone's spirit is enough to make them afraid, but then he hears that mocking voice telling him he's too weak. He laughs with a hollow sound, daring Pyron to do the killing he's too scared of. Gritting his teeth, our hero vows never to become like those people, promising that even if the world ends, he will survive without taking unnecessary lives. He tosses the knife, and Bomb's face instantly brightens with relief. Turning away, Pawn insists it's not because of BOM, but because he refuses to sink to that level, admitting there's no real reason to kill. He thinks about his missing mother and realizes that, whether she's alive or gone, she never wanted this. He steals a moment for himself and steps back. Feeling a chance to win, the thug lunges forward, now convinced the blade is gone and he has a shot. Pin reacts right away, spinning and landing a flurry of hits that send him crashing down. As he looks down at the man who has been beaten, another survivor bends down and grabs the photo from the ground. Pan suddenly snaps his head around, staring with wide eyes and asking, "What are you doing?" The man whispers that it must be important, then awkwardly wipes it off and tells him to keep it safe. More folks crowd around the hidden body. BOM sees that Haru and the little girl have gone missing. The babysitter remembers rushing to the bathroom and says it was lucky they didn't see the mess. One survivor notes that Pyron held back and didn't end the fight even though he could have. But our boy shrugs and claims he was taken hostage. The man laughs it off as trash, but Pawn's anger grows as he insists it matters, and the room goes quiet when he asks his question. He holds up a photo and asks where the flower grows, but everyone looks at it and says they've never seen it before. The red-haired girl asks where the photo was taken, and he says that's exactly why he is asking. The babysitter sighs, wishing the internet still worked, but now they only have that one clue to go on. BOM wonders why it matters, but Pyron gives a straight answer and says he's going there anyway. Whispers spread with worry as BOM says they can't survive above ground with monsters everywhere, but our hero is determined to live and find his mom. In the dark, the captain whispers that since no one listened to his orders, things will only get worse. Suddenly, a monster crashes down, sending debris flying everywhere. The camera moves to an empty subway entrance marked with Zone B and exit signs, looking completely abandoned. Someone finally cheers because the fire is hot enough to cook real food. One guy asks another to fan the fire, but he just shrugs and says he's too busy. Footsteps echo as the little girl bursts in, annoyed, and demands to know why no one flushes. Haru tells us that the toilets have stopped working. A man shows up, grumbling that they're taking forever and demanding to be sent home. Harry watches him nervously shift, wishing only to stay alive like everyone else. By the fire, two men are cooking up a feast. One makes a sneaky remark about the earlier fight and quietly drops something into the pot. The others notice and ask what's happening, but they're told to just keep stirring. He isn't sure if he actually saw anything at all. Suddenly, the pot bursts open with a loud splash, making both of them jump. As the ceiling cracks apart and giant rocks crash down, a tree-like monster bursts through with a huge mouth hanging over the frozen, terrified men. The captain looks down and sees the blonde thug lying on the floor. He whispers to himself, convinced he was right, while noticing that such people seem to appear everywhere. Memories flood back, reminding him that some monsters were never in disguise and that real ones are now walking among them, while strange creatures start swarming behind him. Someone screams at him to watch out, noting that the boy is far stronger than anyone expected. The captain turns a blind eye, only to get sent flying backward. Pin stays firm, his eyes sharp and focused. The leader stands up, calls everyone else weak, and stares down our boy, telling him not to listen cowards but to hand over Pyron, demanding he drop his arrogant grin so the leader can prove who's in charge and finally see what's inside this kid. They lock eyes as the tension grows and the dark starts to swallow them whole. Inside, something moves, and when the captain's eyes go wide, he realizes the terrifying truth. Perron isn't just watching him. Perron is staring right back from the dark, twisting shadows that suddenly snap their teeth and swallow him whole. His team sprints toward him, shouting his name, but he doesn't wake up. Our hero stands there with glowing eyes while the room falls into silence. The captain swallows hard as he realizes he came so close to being eaten. A chill runs through everyone as someone whispers that he actually looks afraid. All of a sudden, a man lets out a scream, clutches his face, and begs for help. As blood pours down his face, he thrashes and screams that he can't see, while horrified onlookers whisper as the man stumbles, covered in gore, insisting he was just asleep, and now his head is pounding as something spreads inside him. He clutches his head and stumbles down the hall, muttering about the pain as everyone watches in fear, wondering if he is turning into a monster. He rips something black and writhing out of his own skull, screaming as the tentacles twist his body, shatter his glasses, and lash out to stab the screaming survivors. The captain grabs him, yanks him clear, and plows right through the creature with raw strength. The monster crashes back with its limbs flying everywhere. He keeps pounding and crushing it until it finally stops moving, just twitching on the ground. Everyone stands frozen in shock as a hush falls over them, with someone whispering that the captain just killed a monster, only for him to demand to know where that terrifying creature came from. As the survivors cheer and call him a hero, one man stands beside him, insisting he always believed in him. Pyron stands silently, his eyes locked on the scene with quiet intensity. The captain's face is slick with sweat as he glares, while a woman nearby flashes a grin and claims she's alive just as a heavy metal hatch slams open. The hatch creaks open wider, pulling everyone's gaze toward the dark tunnel waiting below. Out of the dark, a twisted monster scuttles across the ground and stops everyone cold with sheer terror. It looms over them with twisted limbs and glaring eyes, freezing the survivors in pure terror. The hatch pops open and everyone rushes down below. The bunker had been quiet for so long that the people almost forgot what fear felt like. But as one person quietly steps back, the tension grows thick, memories flood back, bloody survivors remain, and scenes no one dares remember rise up. They all wish they could forget the monsters tearing through the soldiers, but those terrible images stay burned in their minds. A terrifying monster with one huge eye and sharp teeth crawls up, showing why they can never forget, and when it stomps in, everyone panics. Screams fill the air as people shove each other in a chaotic crush that flattens bodies under their feet. The captain screams for everyone to fight back, his voice cutting through the chaos as people hesitate between running and standing their ground, but he grabs an axe and declares that this time they will win if they stick together against the single monster. Some recall that he once beat one of these monsters and start to agree. There is no escape left anyway. For the first time since it all started, hope rises and they gather their courage to decide what comes next. But then blood starts dripping from the captain's nose and his eyes go blank. The crowd stirs nervously as someone reaches out to him. He stumbles forward, then black tendrils burst from his mouth and chest, twisting his body right before their eyes. Gasps ripple through the crowd as they remember he thought he killed the beast, but a woman screams the truth. It's healing right in front of them. Horror takes hold because these things never truly die, and now with tentacles twisting over him, the captain smashes straight through walls, sending destruction flying everywhere. Chaos falls from the sky as blood sprays everywhere and people are ripped apart. A girl screams in terror as a monster clamps its jaws around her, while others are crushed in a roar of their own. The monster grabs its victims and squeezes until blood sprays, piling their bodies into a scary mound until the hallway turns into a bloodbath. Someone pleads for aid, while another cries out that it's over, certain that monsters are about to burst through the door. BOM grabs the babysitter, who is terrified because the little girl is still outside. He warns that if the monsters ever break through the station, she's probably gone for good. The truth hits him so hard he falls to his knees, reaching out in despair just as another survivor turns to walk away. Amidst the chaos, Pan bolts down the hallway with fire in his eyes. Bayam Huang shouts out, and while some of the others are too scared to move, others are already running to catch up with him. Our brave boy keeps moving forward, but at the door, survivors see Boem raise a hand to stop him. Pin steps forward with a glowing, sharp look, points ahead, and as the room grows dead quiet, a body lies in a pool of blood near the sliding doors. 3 kids huddle in the room, while one shivers and whispers how terrified she is. Haru hushes everyone with a finger to her lips, warning that any noise will lead to their capture. The little one sneezes with fear, and Haru softly apologizes, admitting she can't protect anyone right now. She says the chaos is their only hiding spot, but getting found means defeat, so when the little one grabs her sleeve, Haru takes a startled breath, locks eyes with Pyron, lets the child cling to her, and whispers to stay close, while nearby an injured man stares in terror at the dead body, asking what they should do next. Haru shouts that they must run. He screams that there's no escape, yet she stammers that staying alive is the only thing that counts. Gathering her courage, Haru declares they can't just sit and wait to die, and she is determined to survive. Seeing that determination, the man whispers, she must have a strong reason to live, right before everyone freezes in fear as a monster with a glowing red eye steps into the room. He panics and screams for them to run. As the beast lunges and the blonde girl holds on for dear life, the man charges forward to tackle it, grabs it tight, and shouts for everyone else to run because he has nothing left to lose, but he wants them to make it out alive. Haru grabs the little girl and runs away, her cry fading into the air as the man keeps fighting and begs them not to forget what he gave up. Suddenly, fire bursts forth as more survivors charge in, stabbing and smashing another monster. The blonde woman freezes in shock as a woman repeatedly drives a knife into the creature, only to watch it knit itself back together. Someone yells that it's healing itself. The woman curses and runs away, sure they can't win. As Pyron moves forward in silence, the others around him panic, shouting at him to stop and warning that fighting just brings more death. Even with the danger there, our brave lad rushes forward to fight, and the woman thinks he must have a death wish because no one, not even the captain, could ever win against such a beast. The monster lets out a terrifying screech and lunges right at him, but Pawn ducks low, grabs the creature, and pulls hard. Bones snap as he flips forward and leaps high, landing in a crouch. Everyone watches in shock as he rips the monster's long arms apart with just his hands. The beast struggles wildly, but our hero remains cool as he tears it apart piece by piece, leaving BOM and the woman staring in stunned silence. She whispers that even the captain once faced such horrors, yet new monsters roar from the shadows while Pyron stands his ground, staring them down. He leaps right at them and smashes a huge one right in its mouth with all his might. Another lunges, but he springs up, slams down, grabs it, and rips it apart. His strikes make the tendrils snap and fly apart. BOM and the woman think he's done, but Pyron steps out unharmed, wrapped in a mess of moving limbs. Beam whispers in shock that the boy is still alive, leaving the woman so stunned she can't even speak. Even as the monsters keep growing back, everyone watches our boy stand his ground, taking a deep breath as his father's words and the memory of a glowing flower fill his mind. Find the source and smash it before it can cause any more trouble. Pin slices through the crowd with his eyes scanning for a target, then dives in to rip one open and find a glowing seed inside, so he grabs his weapon and plunges it straight into his own chest to steal the power. A sudden burst of energy explodes outward, sending tendrils whipping wildly through the air. The monster twists and writhes as he pushes even harder. Pin pants for air as he looks down at the broken seed glowing at his feet while the survivors freeze in the hallway, staring down the long dark path. One whispers that the monster is truly gone, but Bum just watches a blood-soaked figure limp past the wreckage. Haru drags another girl down the hall, just as a massive boom shakes the bunker. She screams that danger is near, their footsteps turning into a frantic sprint, and just as Haru rounds a corner, a huge beast charges straight at her. She tries to jump out of the way, but slips and crashes down to the ground. The monster fixates its glowing eye on her. She glances back, hearing those heavy steps pounding closer behind her. Suddenly, a swirling black hole tears open in front of her, dragging her into endless darkness. Dark shadows swirl and twist while a sharp hit cuts right through them. BOM gasps from behind, barely able to find the words to speak. Haru stumbles back to the group, safe and unharmed, bringing a wave of relief to the room even as she shakes and whispers in shock. Then, a voice shouts out, asking where the little girl has gone. Haru leaps up and blurts out too much, accidentally revealing where Pyron is, which makes the whole group break down in tears, especially the babysitter who is sobbing desperately to know if the child is safe. Just then, a pair of little shoes popped into view right at the doorway. Everyone stops dead in their tracks as the small girl, her dress torn and covered in blood, steps forward just as a terrifying beast with a glowing red eye rises up behind her. Panic fills the room as someone screams and runs while a child shivers in fear. But just before the monster can strike, Chicken Comb leaps into shield pin and threatens the beast with a warning about its eyes. The creature stops and slowly backs away when the enforcer commands it to stay, leaving him unsure if it fled from fear, so he presses his ears against the silence to catch any sound of movement. He says they're only safe because of what's going on outside. Outside, our hero smashes a monster into the dirt and grumbles. 2 are down, but more are coming, as another charges and he holds his ground. 3 more circles spin around, and Pin realizes that without so many enemies he could clear the area and make it safe, but now he can only try to survive because with nowhere to hide, even one mistake could cost him his life. And worse, more creatures could show up any second now. Tired and broken, he almost runs away to find safety, but remembering the girl who was stabbed stops him in his tracks, and just as a monster slashes him and he falls bleeding, he looks up to see a shadow looming over him. Chicken Comb steps up as the fighter explains that everyone else has made it clear. He knows Pyron is strong enough to take down those monsters. He leans in and asks exactly how he can help. The babysitter grabs his shield and rushes forward just as the little girl watches him silently. Pin grumbled to himself, still puzzled by why these people keep trying to help him. Chicken Comb just shrugs as if it's obvious because they all want to survive, and the babysitter warns that if our boy falls, none of them could stand a chance, so backing him up is their only hope. He reaches out his hand. Pan stops for a moment before nodding and whispering that they need to make a distraction. He thinks betrayal is unlikely as long as survival is the only thing holding them together. A monster lunges forward, but Chicken Comb and the babysitter rush to block it, giving our wounded hero just enough room to move. Chicken Combers rushing at the beast gives Pawn exactly the distraction he needs. He rushes forward, hits his first target, and bursts open the monster's glowing heart, sending wild energy flying everywhere. The beast blasts streams of light that make him dive and dodge, yet he refuses to back down. He fights through the pounding chaos, grabs hold, and whirls it until the heart is bare, then yells that he's finally found the weak spot. He lunges and misses, but the monster's blast fires just as the babysitter slams his shield up, straining to hold it back until that single second saves them. Pyron snaps back to focus, drives a strike right into the core, and smashes it to pieces. The beast falls down, and the man admits he'd just hold everyone back, so the red-haired girl agrees, especially with dead bodies twitching all around them. Someone screams at the monster nearby, shouting that the captain is dead. The babysitter looks back to check on Pyron, but he just points to the broken core at his feet. Chicken Comb wants a lesson, so our boy tells him, every monster has a weak spot you just need to find, while another survivor whispers that only he can truly see them, meaning everyone else should just focus on keeping them distracted. Chicken Comb storms back into the fight, while Pyron agrees that having friends to help makes battles much easier. The bruiser gets slammed hard as Pyron tears through another beast, then suddenly stops dead, sensing one more creature nearby. Across the room, a survivor is caught and held down by twisting vines that pin her to the floor. Just as Haru and the others rush in to see her fighting, the monster begins to crackle and twist, changing into a shape that looks even more terrible. Down on the ground, a bloody hand twitches one last time before going still as the change takes hold. Just nearby, a dead body suddenly twitches and a shadowy, broken figure crawls out to stand over Haru and another survivor. She forces herself to stay calm, just as the beast's jaws snap shut mere inches from her face, missing by a hair. The beast leaps forward one more time, but Parn steps in to bring it down dead, right at the last second. Haru watches in shock as our boy crashes down, covered in blood and too tired to move, yet he still holds onto the monster's glowing heart with eyes locked on the light. Bam rushes over to help, while everyone else scrambles to assist, and later Pyron wakes up wrapped in bandages. Haru sat right next to Bam, who let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Without a second thought, our hero ripped the wrappings off. His wounds have vanished, leaving him completely healed. BOM seizes his arm, completely shocked. Pawn wonders if the other fighter survived, and a familiar voice shouts back, "Alive!" while Chicken Comb grins proudly, showing off how tough he is. He shrugs and says he just did what he wanted, even though someone quietly whispers that he looks like a bad guy. The enforcer just laughs, saying he takes orders from no one. Haru yawns while someone calls him shady, but Chicken Comb just smirks that it's all style, and Pyron asks Haru why she's still here since she isn't hurt. She snaps back to demand what he'll do, then admits she was worried. BOM stops him to remind Pyron that Haru stayed behind to help with his wounds. She screams that she did it just because BOM needed her. Just then, Chicken Comb jumps in, telling her he recognizes her from before and even admits he was impressed by how fast she was fighting. He said she swatted away monsters as if they were nothing, moving fast as the wind itself. Haru freezes, looks clearly uncomfortable, and turns his back as you step nearer. Pin watches her leave, silently holding onto the stabbed woman's plea to try and make peace. Our boy shouts her name. He wonders if that's all, and she nods quietly without even turning around, before later seeing a man in glasses speak to the group during a meeting. Out of 43 people, only 12 are left, which he quickly corrects to mean that roughly 78% have been lost. He says they found many dead bodies looking gray and shriveled, just like dried-up mummies. One woman claims the monsters drained them, then wonders if they're a government experiment, while others insist they just fell from the sky. Someone shouts about aliens, but another person quickly hushes him, reminding everyone that bigger problems are still waiting. All eyes turn to Perrin as they demand to know how he fights so well and how he knows how to kill the monsters. While Haru watches in silence, our boy answers plainly, having trained for this end of the world since the very day he was born. Pyron holds up the photo, telling us it's the only thing he brought from the bunker. But the woman remains skeptical, thinking he might be lying and demanding more proof since she doubts his tale of living underground and predicting the end of the world. She felt one picture wasn't enough to capture her. Even though she admits he's a great fighter and the others start to believe in his power, a survivor suddenly charges at him, only for our boy to dodge it easily. The attacker panics, apologizes, and quickly says he now believes the bunker story. BOM steps forward, confirming he's convinced now, especially after healing all of Pawn's scars. BOM says that looking back at everything the kid has been through, no other kid could have survived so much. Haru gets curious and asks about the scars. His parent says those scars are proof he never quit when trying to get out of the bunker, and he doesn't see them as painful memories. Another man questions why he didn't warn everyone about the end of the world. Our hero remembers a secret his dad once shared, admitting he never thought his father meant to warn anyone. He admits he doesn't fully trust people, but since the group helped him, he's starting to doubt that everyone is as bad as his father said. A survivor grabs him and says he's the only one who knows how to kill the monsters. Chicken Comb thinks that if he finds his mom, it might help them figure out what these creatures are. One of them warns that their survival is just luck and says the blocked entrance hiding them is their only shield. Once the monsters get through, it's game over. There is only one way out, and it means squeezing through a tiny crack in the rubble. Ignoring the warnings, they rush to the storage room only to discover it buried under a pile of rubble. Panic spreads through them because that food was their only way to survive. A chilling voice breaks in to say this is no longer for storing food. Bum shouts that they need a team to find food and calls out for anyone willing to join. Chicken Comb shoots up his hand to ask for a breath of fresh air, but even as he insists he's fine, BOM shuts him down, reminding him that his wounds need time to heal first. Some say that trying to go higher is just a death sentence. Even the mysterious cloaked figure has to agree. BOM looks worried because there's just enough food left for 1 week. Pan steps forward with a calm and steady voice, declaring that he will go. Bam feels thankful, yet our boy insists he wanted to do it all along. He's hoping to find other survivors, someone who knows that photo, or maybe a safer place to stay. 2 more survivors stepped up to help, including a girl about his own age. She admits that Pyron risked his life to save everyone, even though she would have just run away. When someone calls out Haru, she doesn't answer, showing she's clearly shaken. Pyron sees her pause and gently asks what is bothering her. The room gets quiet and strange, with people whispering about how he might really walk outside without a shirt. She handed him a blanket she made while he slept. He asks about it, and she explains that she used to be a designer with lines of people waiting for her clothes when society still existed. Pyron recalls reading about how people wear different styles, wondering why his father always gave him the same outfit when he craved something new. His dad would laugh and say he wore the exact same thing. Our hero finally admitted that his true wish was just to wear fresh outfits under the sun. He thanks her with a warm heart, and right then, Haru speaks up as she slides on her pants, telling him she wants to ask something, so he lifts his head to ask what it is. Haru stands still before Pyron while the other survivors whisper in shock, unable to believe what they are witnessing. She gets so flustered that she suddenly screams at him, calls him a pervert, and swings at him. Our boy dodges, confused, and tries to ask why she's attacking, but Haru slips mid-swing and crashes to the ground. She won't get up from lying there, so Pyron, who still doesn't get it, walks closer until someone in the group whispers about a scar, causing her to lower her head. He asks her to stand up, but Haru yells at him to put on some clothes first. He sighed, agreed, got dressed, and then wondered out loud just how those monsters had ended up there. The survivors think the fire lured them in, so when the red-haired girl spots cooking marks and grabs a lighter, Pyron rushes to stop her and warn that fire draws out monsters. She freezes in fear as the group understands the danger, and Haru watches until the girl nervously gives him the lighter, which he grips tightly while stepping back. A boy spots Haru and shouts that she's the track star from Gason Middle School because he instantly noticed her scar, which he thinks is cool, while Haru internally knows it's just a mark of fear and cowardice that reminds her of everyone laughing at her weakness. Her first day at middle school, she stood nervous and clutching her bag while her parents wished her luck and urged her to study hard. Her brother cheers while her new classmates whisper curiously and her parents look on with worry. Her father sits quietly, wondering if she will be okay and thinking about how happy she used to be. Her mother worries about how anxious she's been since the incident and how hard she struggles every day, while the memory sharpens to show young Haru trapped by a shadowy man raising a knife as her parents scream. She bites him and breaks free, only to collapse and watch in trembling terror as blood sprays when the blade slashes her. Just before her father rushes in, her mother screams, and her vision fades. She jolts awake in a hospital bed, screaming while her parents hold her tight and promise she is safe because the man has been arrested. Even as they hold her tight, she shivers and stares at her bandaged scar, still too scared to be comforted. While his friends at school talk about scary things, Haru sits alone and stays quiet. She looks out the window and watches shadows move like the man she's haunted by, just as a girl asks her what scares her the most. Haru repeats the question but freezes in silence, and later, she finally whispers that she is afraid of dying. The room goes quiet until the girl says she was talking about scary movies. The coach yells her name, pulling her out for track practice. Ever since the scar appeared, she's felt like a ghost is always trailing right behind her. As soon as the signal comes, she runs, every step pushed forward by fear and heavy with painful memories. She barely catches herself before falling, but she grits her teeth and keeps moving forward. She thinks she is a coward, but then the coach shouts that she has broken another record. Her teammates cheered as the coach praised her for breaking records in just 2 years, saying she could be a star. A crowd of reporters has gathered to meet the girl with the scar. Nervous, but encouraged by their request for a picture, Haru smiles and greets them. One guy who claims to be a fan reaches out and touches her shoulder, making her jump. He pulls back with a scoff, calling her weird and insisting he meant no harm. The coach steps in to defend her, but the man whispers that she's just a nervous wreck, and Haru stays silent. That night at dinner, her father kept scrolling on his phone until her mother scolded him, but he just laughed, apologized, and started asking questions about the reporter. His brother can't believe how fast she moves. Her dad says he can't wait to watch her on TV. He admits her running skills really took off after that incident. Every time Haru runs, her memories come back, which is just how ironic life is. She began to run to prove she wasn't a coward, but nothing truly changed. She snatches up her uniform and is off. Her dad tells her that being scared doesn't make her strange. She shouts back, convinced that her fear means she isn't good enough. He wraps his arms around her, tells her she doesn't need to hide, and explains that the scar is a badge of bravery and that her family loves her no matter what. Haru wept, haunted by the sting of being called a coward and her foolish struggle to change, blind to what actually mattered. She remembers her family wrapping around her, her father's voice telling her she isn't broken and that fear is okay. He sticks out his pinky finger and asks her to promise she won't cry, even when she's terrified. Haru nods with determination, but right as they get ready to go, something smashes through the building and sends debris raining down on them. Her father stares in shock as the family bolts through the ruins of their broken city. A huge stone giant steps forward right as Haru's dad falls and can't get back up. As she shouts his name, he locks eyes with her. As he stumbles back and shouts for her to stop, Haru freezes with tears in her eyes while he begs her to run, promising to take care of their home alone. Yet she screams that she can't leave because he means everything to her. She insists she can't run, vowing she'd never forgive herself if she did, and collapses in tears as she watches her father stand between her and the monsters coming for them. Suddenly, a flash of light explodes all around him, and everything disappears into darkness. Haru sprints through the dark while her father's voice says it's okay to be scared, but she still won't believe him. With a deep breath, she pushes herself forward, holding on to his kindness while admitting she used to run, but now she clenches her fists and vows to stop running forever. Facing Pan, she declares she's coming along and will never run away again. While monsters lurk on the rooftops, survivors sneak into the city. The team creeps past a hidden monster that bellows, but they dive for cover and slip away safely. One survivor breathes a sigh of relief. Another shoots a nervous joke, and our hero steps forward to promise them it's safe. Haru overhears a voice asking questions about the map. Pyron holds up a piece of paper and watches him explain they have to make one. As she echoes his words, his voice turns cold, and he reminds her that a map is just as necessary as food. Haru steps up to help since she knows the way, but she stumbles. They pack what little they can find, shocked to see how much is missing compared to what they had planned. Par notices that most of the food has gone bad. The survivor with glasses suggests we eat the food before it goes bad. Haru pauses and says they should wait until they're back at base, but the other insists the food will rot soon and they risk their lives getting it, so they'd better eat now. While others argue people are waiting back at base, our hero takes a bite and declares it tastes great. He points out that the food in the bunker is just boring fuel, but this tastes amazing by comparison. Haru jokes that he's never even tasted bread before, and he scowls back. He slides the food toward her, reminding her that their old bargain is settled and they are finally even. Pyron tells everyone to stay quiet and hidden, because while he can fight monsters, making a sound will just bring a terrifying horde, and only silence will keep them alive. Suddenly, he stops as something drops down from between the towers above. His voice turns sharp, warning them to hide before the monsters find them. Pyron shouts a warning to all, "Don't let the monsters get the drop on you." Haru and the others stop dead in their tracks. He warns them that if they get caught, their only hope is to scatter and run for their lives. He squeezes Haru's shoulder to let her know the creature hasn't spotted us yet. A whisper of a question hangs in the air, but before anyone can answer, Pawn chucks a can that rings out with a loud metallic clang. The beast jumps at the noise, showing that it's only drawn by sound. He quieted the crowd, warned them to be still, and explained that fighting blindly would just bring even more of them to the fight. They must strike the danger down in one mighty blow. His mind suddenly jumps back to the basement, where someone handed him a weapon and swore they'd never leave the dark, claiming they just wanted help from below. The weapon was built just for Pyron to hit the monster's weak spots. Our hero grabs hold and lunges ahead, driving the weapon straight into the beast's heart. As he gazes at the weapon, his father's voice rings out, warning him not to depend on tools because survival up here means fighting with his bare hands, a rule his father has always insisted on, promising that it will all make sense one day. Pin couldn't believe anyone could face such terrifying monsters without weapons, realizing his dad never mentioned them in the bunker, perhaps because he thought Pin wouldn't believe him, but now Pin finally admits that the apocalypse is real. The memories of those endless drills in the bunker preparing for the monsters come rushing back. Why would his dad train him so hard if he never wanted him to go? Maybe it wasn't a trap at all, because his father only ever lied about his mother's death, and now all that practice might finally be paying off for a moment like this. On the very first day of the end, he still remembers his dad unlocking every single door. If he hadn't gotten away then, those monsters would have torn him apart. Now he wonders why the monsters chose their bunker and how his dad knew what was coming. While nearby, a bespectacled survivor kneels beside a curled-up monster and mutters that they couldn't break it before tossing it to a girl who throws it aside. Pan watches the thing fly through the air and land right next to him. He lifts the object and sees odd patterns moving across it, while it hums softly in his hand. The guy with glasses asks what's going on, but our boy stays silent. He squeezes until the crack spreads wide. As pieces shatter, he looks at the now-awake Haru and thinks of her running away alone, silently vowing never to do that again and promising to apologize to that kid when he can. Pyron remembers his dad, back when the world was still good, handing him a book from home and calling it the story of a hero. The boy's eyes flutter open once more, and Haru leans down close to him. Haru trips over Pyron and quickly covers his mouth, silencing him even as he tries to speak. Looking up at her, our boy complains that she's too heavy and says she should get off. Haru quickly replies that she isn't, but he mutters for her to calm down and calls her a scaredy cat. She peers through her binoculars across the city and spots monsters lurking on the horizon. Haru squints at her map while Pawn wanders over to ask how it's going, teasing her human side, which makes her annoyed, and later he admits to someone that he hasn't had a real name since he was a kid. G insists he needs one, and while Eugene wants to grab one right away, he just stands there confused, mumbling about names, until Haru finally steps up to offer one. He refuses, then remembers his father, drops his head, and whispers Paran, leaving the others shocked until Haru repeats the name and nods. She wonders what the word means, and our hero explains that he found it in a book he read when he was a kid. Eugene asks each of us to share our names. G starts first, followed by Eugene and Haru, who jokes that Pan won't remember it anyway. He pauses to find the words, then finally speaks up and tells them he is Pan. The crowd shouts his name, and he calls out again as the past rushes back to life. He spots the underground bunker and remembers his dream of breaking through to the surface, meeting people, sharing his name, and finally learning the names of others to speak with them. In that instant, Haru, Giant, and Eugene all share a smile with him. Giant reaches out a hand and asks to be your friend. Pien pulls away, and the blood, screams, and apocalypse flash through his mind. He steps back and says in a cold voice that they aren't friends. Eugene and Haru stand there, wide-eyed and stunned by what they just saw. He wondered if the world hadn't come to an end, he might have been their friend. Now all he wants is to find his mom. He starts to walk away, but a loud scream suddenly stops him in his tracks. Pan and G see a man down there stuck by a monster, and just as they think about leaving, Eugene stops them and says they have to help. Haru and Giant exchange a silent look as Pyron shakes his head in refusal, warning that any sound will bring even more trouble. Eugene insists they can rescue him and get away safely. Pien remembers their deal, but when the man screams again, Eugene ignores him, grabs a weapon, and plunges it into the beast. She strikes it one more time and pushes it away. The man nods his thanks, and Eugene warns him that sticking with the group is his only chance to survive. Still shaking, he warns them while a new monster emerges. Pin jumps in and slices it right down. He turns to Eugene with a hard look, asking if she truly grasps the danger her recklessness could have put them all in. Haru and Giant stand frozen, sensing that trouble is only just beginning, as the wounded man realizes his broken leg leaves him unable to walk and in desperate need of help. Pin knew these kinds of problems were coming. Suddenly, the sharp crackle of monsters nearby freezes everyone in place. More enemies are closing in, but our boy won't give them any more help. G points out that rescuing the man before was already a huge gamble. Pawn looks at Eugene and says she can join if she wants, but it means leaving the group behind and never coming back. Giant backs Pyron up and insists that everyone must follow every order with no exceptions. So even though the injured man begs and yells that they are murderers leaving him to die, she thinks of the others waiting at base, and Eugene reluctantly decides to stay. Pyron shouts at him to be quiet, but his cries still bounce off the walls in the dark. The monsters scream back, and the whole group runs for their lives as the horde closes in. Haru screams that the monsters have blocked their only way out. Pyron gauges the moment, sees they're still safe and unseen, and knows that if they hurry back the way they came, they can slip out before anyone notices. Then the hurt man flicks a lighter, sending sparks of fire dancing in his palm. Everyone stops moving as he points to the smoking sign, but Giant shouts that fire only brings more trouble, while the man shrugs and whispers that the fire already took his home away, causing the lighter to flare up and send smoke rising into the air despite G's pressure. The shadows lengthen while the monsters sneak ever closer. The man whispers that this is his final moment, and all he wants is one last cigarette. Creatures crash down with loud screeching noises while Pyron screams for everyone to run and charges ahead, his voice sharp as he yells once more for them to keep moving. The man lingers in the shadows while Pien bolts forward with G hot on his heels. Haru turns around just as a beast jumps at the man, and she screams in horror. Pawn jumps in with a flash of his blade, cutting the monster down before it can hit him, and his weapon rips through its flesh the moment he lands. He stands his ground with his weapon ready as the beast steps closer. Behind him, the rest of them stood still as statues. Pin snarled at them, reminding them he told them to run. G protests, reminding everyone that he promised to escape just as well, so he can't understand why he is still stuck here. Our boy thinks the same thing, but grips his weapon tighter. Giant warns that if Pan stays, The monsters will hunt them down and wipe them all out. Eugene screams and stabs down into the beast with his knife. Haru watches helplessly as Jian and Eugene fight for their lives while dangerous beasts circle closer. Pin roars out again so they can escape. Jian is certain they can win because with fewer enemies left, standing together will help them survive. But then the air tiers open and a huge, twisted red monster steps through, its fiery heart burning bright and its ugly limbs twisting in the air. As the wind howls and the air tightens around them, Parent steps forward to stand strong. G is frozen in place as the other monsters bow down to their new master. Our hero screams for him to run, but Jian freezes in place until the monster grabs him and tears his heart out in one quick move. His body gives out, blood soaking through his vest as Jian lies spread out in a growing pool of red. Haru falls to her knees, screaming his name while Eugene panics and cries, and Pin grips his weapon to force himself into action. He dashes at the giant monster, but his weapon breaks on contact, and the beast swings him back across the ground until his ribs crack, only for him to gasp upright just in time to watch the creature smash G's heart in its hand before tossing the body aside. As it grows bigger and more twisted, it keeps moving forward. He screams for Haru to run and tells everyone to get out, but she shakes her head no, because fleeing now means losing someone she cares about, so she refuses to give up. The beast grabs Eugene while Haru holds her weapon tight, shaking but standing her ground. Eugene blames herself for everything and begs the others to run, sure that she is only putting them in danger. She rushes forward in a desperate attempt to draw the monsters toward her, her voice echoing as she begs them to stay alive. But she is swallowed up and ripped to pieces right before their eyes. Pin watches in horror as the giant, glowing beast tears through the survivors, while he and Haru hold their breath, waiting for the crash to happen. He begs her to run, but Haru stops him to ask what happens to him. Pin keeps walking forward and won't stop. She pushes him to stop, asking why he's trying to give his life away when he was the one who begged for them to run away together. He speaks in a quiet tone, admitting that running would have been the smart thing to do. As she pushes harder, he whispers his thanks in the quiet. As he moves forward, his mind wanders back to the shared meals, the learned names, and the moment he finally stood on solid ground, realizing it was everything he had ever dreamed of, only to conclude that once a person dies, the talking stops and the names go silent forever. He begs Haru to run, crying that he can't watch any more of his friends die. Haru shakes her head in disbelief, repeating over and over that this can't be happening again. Dark shapes creep closer, and Pin urgently shouts for her to run, his voice sharp with fear. She screams out asking why, but he tells her she has to run. Haru cried, saying his voice sounded just like her father's, echoing the very same words he'd said long ago. Tears stream down her face as she holds onto the promise she made, never to run or leave anyone behind. She screams that she won't sacrifice everyone else to save herself again, remembering her father's gentle voice telling her it's okay to be afraid. A heavy guilt twists inside her, yet she walked away from him anyway. Pyron asks if she's really too stubborn to run and save her own skin. He smirks and says he should have known better, because you're just too kind. Haru finally sees she was wrong, admits her mistakes, and accepts that her dad did love her all along. In his memory, he holds out his hand and asks her to promise not to cry, even if she feels like a coward. She yells out her promise while they join their pinkies together. Left all by himself, our boy keeps her words spinning around his mind, knowing that death ends everything and he can't stand the idea of losing anyone else. Haru rushes back yelling that he's an idiot since no one said she was going to die. She vows to keep going and says that if they both survive, their story won't end. Pyron watches quietly as she locates some fuel and pauses to promise that they can still talk, remember each other's names, and stay friends. So she flicks a lighter and sparks a flame. Pin yells her name and asks what she is doing, but Haru keeps the fire steady, telling him not to lose hope and reminding him they must survive. She lets the lighter fall and the gasoline bursts into sudden flames. She thinks back to when she used to run just to stay safe. Now she's running fast to keep the one she cares about safe. She vows to guard everyone and tells Pan that she'll meet him at the base. Monsters swarm around her, but Haru tears through the streets, sprinting faster than ever, dodging blows and leaping over rubble as claws slash inches behind her. A giant mutant lunges, but she keeps running, while our hero stands his ground, staring straight ahead as the monsters surround him and he shouts for them to stop, freezing in fear just as they close in and one stomps toward him, growling and demanding to know where he thinks he's going. Our hero speaks quietly, letting the other person know that they should be the one worrying. He fixes his eyes on the monster's weak spots. He felt the spark of life deep inside. Reaching for his weapon, the boy is caught off guard as the creature leaps faster, knocking the blade away and sending him sliding backward. He quickly realizes that without it, he simply can't reach the weak spot. Suddenly, his father's words rang in his head, telling him that he didn't always have to use a weapon. Pin remembers his father telling him that one day, he would finally understand. Every time he asked what it meant, the older man would just say that weapons weren't meant for people like them. He recalls watching his father fight without ever using steel, so now our boy steps into his own fighting stance. The voice says that standing still is just the start of the adventure. Every living thing has a spark of life, even them. He recalls the basement lessons where his father showed him how to channel life force through his hands and pull it out with sharp focus. Blue sparks fly as power rushes through his body. His dad's words push him to grab that power. Pin shouts that nothing is changing, but the voice tells him to keep listening until he can feel that life force and finally control it. Suddenly, our hero feels a sudden rush of power inside him, his father's words echoing that this strength belongs to him, as a glow lights up his arm and he shouts in shock at what is happening. He remembers asking his dad what would happen if he poured all of it out. As the monster gets closer, the voice says that when Pawn learns to control it, he'll move just as fast as his father. Feeling stronger than ever, he throws himself forward. Our hero dashes forward and crashes straight into the beast. It swings at him, but he breaks through its guard and sends the creature skidding across the ground. As the beast grabs its own face, Parn moves instantly with every shake. A surge of power flows through him, and suddenly he knows he can finally keep pace. As the creature leaps forward, our boy holds his ground, and they crash into each other while hanging in the air. He reaches out, tugs on a slimy vine, and crushes the monster flat. The monster swings, but he slips away, jumps high, and lands a punch so hard it splits the ground and makes a lightning flash. He looks around to see if the danger has finally passed. But the creature's arms start to split and stretch as its whole body changes shape. Pyron sees the enemy guarding its weak spot and knows he must push even harder to break through. As he digs deep, sparks fly from his fist. The memories of his fallen friends keep his spirit strong and his drive alive. As lightning crackles through his veins and his face glows, he lifts his head and dares the monster to strike first. The monster lets out a terrifying scream and lunges, its arms and tentacles crashing down on him. Yet he keeps moving forward even as the beast towers over him, ready to strike, and suddenly a terrible thought strikes him. If he'd been this strong before, none of his friends would have died. He gathers every bit of strength left, throws out a punch so powerful it bursts with light and force, falls to the ground completely drained, but somehow manages to stand up just as the monster returns for another attack. Just as the beast grabs a wounded survivor, he notices a glowing piece of its heart still shining inside it. He yells for it to stop, fighting hard to pull the leering tendril away from the helpless people below. The monster chokes him right there, and when he sees his friend lying dead, his mind goes blank, leaving only one thought. He has to kill this beast. Pin's eyes blaze red as he grabs the monster's arm, locks it tight, and braces himself for the fight ahead. The beast growls and rolls around, opening its mouth to show way too many teeth, but the man's hold just gets tighter. Its whole body snaps back and forth with a loud crack as our hero twists with fierce strength. The beast wobbles, and he tugs harder until the limb snaps completely apart in his hands. He braces himself as red energy swirls around him, his glowing eyes and surging aura swallowing the monster's scream, while Pan charges straight into the chaos, blurring with speed, and the survivors sneak through the area with a map, keeping a close watch on their surroundings. One feels close to success, another complains about the wait, but the guy with glasses panics at the sight of movement, and the team rushes over to find Pyron collapsed on the ground. They were shocked but relieved to find him alive, so they picked him up. As the others stare at the wreckage, Chicken Comb asks what happened, then gets bossy with the girl carrying the boy and tells her to drop some of the bags. She flatly refuses, demanding half the food supply and boasting about the big meal waiting ahead. He offers help, tosses her heavy bag away to make her scream, runs ahead, daring them to follow, and someone even vows to shave off his mohawk while the guy with glasses whispers that they'd better stay quiet or they'll be in big trouble. Pin jolts awake in a daze, gripping a map as he wonders if Haru is still alive. The guy in glasses pushes our hero for the truth, but he can only remember snatching the monster out of the air at the very last second before everything goes blurry. He has no clue how he managed to stay alive. Suddenly, the ground shakes as another monster appears and lets out a roar. Chicken Comb dashes into battle, and Pyron steps up to meet him. The man with glasses starts panicking because he has no weapon, but Pyron's hand is already crackling with power. The beast charges forward, but he leaps aside and crashes into it with such force that the very ground trembles. The stunned survivors watch in shock as he snatches the monster's arm, lightning surging through him until he smashes the glowing core into a million pieces. Once the dust clears, Chicken Comb grabs him and starts firing a rapid stream of questions his way. Inside the shelter, a handful of older men fiddle with their radios, growing more annoyed with every moment that no one answers. Bum asks everyone to hold on, hoping for news from the government, while the group grows anxious because the supply team is still missing and Haru sits awake in the dark, just waiting for Pyron to return. When Bam sees something moving outside, everyone starts whispering just as the supply team comes back. Haru gasps, and her eyes go wide as she watches him being brought inside. As Pyron stumbles back to his feet, the survivor calms his fears and lunges forward to give him a tight, relieved hug. She confesses she ran away, yet he made it through, causing her to collapse into tears while the others look on. The trip returned enough food and medicine for a week, but the price was steep since 2 of them didn't make it back. As Pyron opens his eyes, Haru walks right up to say hello. He says he dreamed someone hugged him, but she just waves it off as nothing more than a dream. He sees her hurt legs. She jokes he looks worse. He says he heals fast. She calls him a monster, then quickly apologizes. Haru says they're opposites, noting that she's always run while he's always fought. She admits she was always hiding her fear, but now she finally accepts it. She's a coward, yet she's stepping up to fight anyway because she wants to change. A little girl appears, and Haru is so shocked he apologizes for leaving her before, wishing he'd asked her to speak up sooner. The girl offers a hairpin, and when Haru asks about it, the child insists it's a gift she needs to fix her bangs that are getting in her eyes. Haru almost backs out, but the girl quickly calms her down, telling her there's another pin waiting. As Haru touches her scar to remind herself she kept fighting while Pyron watches, she pins up her hair, asks if she looks pretty, and the little girl says yes, showing that even after all the loss and frustration, hope still shines through. Pyron sat still clutching a tiny trinket until a buzzing sound from the radio made everyone turn to listen. He spins around just as a voice cuts through the crackling noise, checking if the microphone works. The group finally realizes the radio is working again. The broadcaster says he knew the end was coming and got ready, so now it's up to you to decide if you believe him. Our boy listens hard, holding his breath until the voice stops, leaving the next move up to them. The list tunes into the radio and introduces himself with a voice that is both calm and in charge. He tells the listeners that surviving without any plan is already amazing, so he shares his idea. To beat the monsters, you must stick together and know where everyone is. He tells everyone to trade their fire for flashlights, shining their beams for just 10 seconds exactly at midnight. When the time comes, beams suddenly slice through the darkness. All over the city, tiny beams of light flicker on in the dark. Haru sees faint lights far away and holds her breath, knowing she is no longer alone. The team starts guessing if List really expected the end of the world, noting that broadcasting like this needs serious military-grade gear. Our boy can't stop thinking about it, even though only his dad ever saw this disaster coming. Could List know something about his mom? He remembers the man saying his place was marked by the brightest light, and then quietly wished everyone good luck. Just as Pan is about to leave, Chicken Comb rushes up to ask to go with him. And even though the main character warns him about the dangers and tries to push him away, Chicken Comb insists he isn't as weak as he looks and refuses to stay behind. He insists that everyone who died chose their fate and urges Pyron to stop carrying the weight of their guilt, reminding him that the dangers were always known. After finishing, he declares they are teammates now and insists on being called Big Bro. Pyron gives in and lets him keep going. When he jokingly calls him a chicken comb, the self-styled tough guy complains that it's actually a mohawk and begs to have the nickname dropped. Their back-and-forth arguing goes on until Haru jumps in to say she's joining them too. PN lets him go without any trouble, but later, a guard notices he left without his weapon. The guy in glasses sits back and thinks about just how scary Pan really is. He has knocked out grown men and taken down monsters that everyone thought were impossible to defeat. Watching the young man move with almost superhuman speed, the observer wonders who he really is, and later Chicken Comb asks if copying Pyron's moves will make him stronger. Before sharing the first lesson on how to feel life force, our hero pauses for a moment. Confused, the other asks for clarity, and Pan compares it to the body's own energy. He admits he didn't believe it until he felt it himself, but then he suddenly froze and stopped the whole group in its tracks. Haru stiffens and asks if it's a monster and if they should run, but Pan shakes his head. Suddenly, a woman stumbles into view, and he realizes the presence he felt wasn't a monster, but a person. A stranger pleads for help, her voice cracking as she tells us her family is stuck beneath the rocks after running away from scary beasts. She says she'll do whatever it takes as long as they save her loved ones. Chicken Comb asks if the woman truly means it, and she nods. Haru insists they must help her, while Pawn wonders if they're the only ones who can, so she replies that's exactly why she came to them. Our hero feels others nearby and admits she wanted to draw them to her base for a surprise attack, but says it doesn't matter since there are plenty more to fight. Chicken Comb grouses that he's only getting a few favors from her instead of the 10 he was hoping for. Suddenly, the woman shouts for them to hand over everything they own, down to their last piece of clothing. Haru says no, but warns the girl to give up everything or face death, so the thugs step forward to grab what they want. Chicken Comb begins to take off his jacket, tossing it over before him. One of the thugs bends down to snatch it, making fun of his fear. Out of nowhere, the loudmouth knocks him out, slips back into his vest, teases our boy on how he looks, and then gets ready to throw down. The woman commands her team to put them down fast. A thug lunges with a knife, but Pan grabs the blade mid-swing and twists it back into him, dropping the attacker instantly. Chicken Comb yells out, challenging the others to step up and fight him. Their leader orders his people to hunt down Haru, mocking her as a scaredy cat. The bad guys charge at her, but she jumps out of the way and gets away. As the team slips away, a man watches them vanish from his window above. They step into a house just around the corner. Pyron says to wait their ground, but Haru notices the empty streets and warns that the mess inside looks like a trap. Suddenly, the floor collapses under them, and Haru and Chicken Comb tumble into a pile of garbage. A figure shows up and asks who these uninvited guests are. He spots the same bunch from before and shouts that they're idiots. Pin freezes with his eyes locked forward while a knife flashes right next to Haru's throat. The captor grips it tight, showing he will follow through on his threats if anyone dares to try anything. Our boy loses his temper and screams for the truth. The man who is holding Haru tightly asks why they are there. Pin spills that they arrived because of the radio broadcast. Then his face changes as he realizes what Pawn meant and insists he heard it too. So our hero stops and wonders why he isn't running straight toward the brightest light. The captor laughs, sneering at the thought that anyone could ever guess when the world would end. He presses the blade right up to Haru's neck, saying that one lie will end her life, then suddenly dives forward, but Pyron leaps out of the way and they start fighting. Pin ducks and counters slammed him down to the ground. They trade blows as the captor swings wildly, and the fight grows fiercer until Pawn charges again, only to have his side cut by the blade. Yet he pushes through the pain to strike over and over while the captor keeps dodging every hit. The man says the boy isn't a normal thief, but the kid just cares about getting in fast enough to knock his enemy down while scary monsters start gathering outside, making things much more dangerous. It quickly turns into a tense standoff. The captor holds on tight, knowing that any loud sound will bring the creatures rushing, but quiet shuffling won't carry them close enough. They both get ready while he thinks hard about gathering his energy like he did before. PN leaps forward and commits to the clash, forcing the captor to halt as Pawn crouches, channels his power, and swings it past the man's face. Our boy lifts a finger to tell everyone to keep very quiet. The captor freezes as a rope suddenly snaps, making him start complaining, but the others glare at him angrily. He sits down, looking jittery and afraid they might get even. Haru and Chicken Comb share a grin and tie him up tighter, spinning him around while he shouts in protest, but Haru just laughs and demands another turn. The man insists on knowing what they truly want. Pin says they're just heading out to grab some supplies before they go on air. He still doesn't believe it, but our hero insists they'll let him go later, refusing to take any chances after what happened before. When the captor asks how Pyron moves so fast, he dodges the question, and suddenly a noise overhead draws everyone's attention. They look up to spot a torn corpse of a giant ape lying near the remains of a monster. The Chicken Comb and Haru froze in fear, yet the man remained calm and assured them that the creature would not strike. It is his sister, and he keeps repeating that she is barely holding on but still alive. Haru asks how that's.